Hello, today I'm speaking to Sarah Brune. Sarah's in Canada and she's the owner of Inner Harmony Healing. So thank you very much for joining us today. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, I live on the west coast of Canada in British Columbia, and I moved to Canada about 28 years ago. And I started a business, a Bach flower business called Inner Harmony Healing. And I learned how to first take the remedies when I did a course in the early 2000s. And originally I first came across Rescue Remedy, which is for stress relief, because a friend was taking it. And when I got home from traveling, I found a book about the remedies and found it fascinating because they actually described my personality.
Can we just stop you there? So let's back up a bit. So you're talking about Bach or Bach flower remedies. It gets pronounced both ways, yeah?
I call them the Bach remedies.
Yeah. So can you explain how they originated?
Yeah, Dr. Bach, he was a British physician in the 1920s, and he believed he was more concerned about the person and the personality rather than the disease. Mm-hmm. So he subsequently learnt homeopathic medicine and then decided there was possibly another system of healing that would help with the actual emotions, because usually when people get ill, there's a reason for it, and how they react to it can be very different. So he spent 19 years going around the British countryside, testing and finding plants. And he came up, over 19 years, he came up with 38 different remedies. And during that time, he suffered greatly because he was actually got the negative emotion, and he found the plant for that. And he developed a system where he used called the sun method, where he put the remedies on a bowl of water and they were energized in the sun. And for the woodier plants, they use a boiling method. So it's a very nice, natural system of healing.
Yeah, so the remedies themselves don't contain any of the plant, which I know a lot of people find really strange and surprising, but they contain the energy pattern, the signature of the plant.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
And once they're actually made, that energy is locked in forever and nothing can affect it.
Yeah, and then they are preserved in brandy, I think, usually, aren't they?
Yes, at the Bach Centre, they preserve them 50% of the energized water, 50% brandy. But the remedies that you can buy in the stores, they're preserved in 27% grape alcohol.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right. So he, as you say, he found each of the, I mean, he would suffer in some way. So he would get, for example, angry and be feeling very angry. And then he would go out into the countryside until he held a flower. This is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, until he sort of held a flower, and that flower calmed him. And then he understood that if people who were angry, for example, took that flower as a flower remedy, then it would help to remove that anger from them in a very positive way.
Yes, that's correct. For instance, one time he used to make his own furniture, and from the wood, he was chopping the wood and he hurt himself, and he realized that his colleagues were more fearful for him than he was himself. So he developed, found the remedy called red chestnut. Right. And that helps people who are concerned for loved ones.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. It's very interesting. I mean, it's interesting how they've been found. And the one remedy, I think, that it's a combination remedy that a lot of people know about, not everybody, is called Rescue Remedy. I remember many years ago, I met a series of nurses who all told me they relied on Rescue Remedy. And I said, do your colleagues know you use Rescue Remedy? Oh, no, I don't tell anybody. And I just had this idea that, you know, on a ward, there might be half the nurses using Rescue Remedy, but they didn't tell each other that they were doing it. So the Rescue Remedy is for stress, for shock. How would you describe when to use Rescue Remedy?
They refer to it as the crisis combination at the Bach Centre. It's for emergency situations. For instance, I used it after, it's useful if you've been in a car accident or had a shock or trauma. And the more fearful and stressed you are, for instance, the more it calms you down.
Yeah.
And it's got 5 different remedies in it for shock, fear, focus, patience, and calms you down.
Right. And how do you take it?
It comes in several forms. The most common one is drops. So you always take 4 drops. And they have a spray, so you can use it as a sprayer. And they have pastilles now as well.
Right. And you can even get rescue cream, can't you? So
That's correct.
If you injure yourself, you can put the rescue cream on.
Yeah, I've used that. I actually have a tube in every room because if I hurt myself, if I put it on quickly enough, I don't actually get a bruise.
Yeah. When I mean, I used to keep a bottle of Rescue Remedy in almost every room. And when my boys were small, you know, if one of them fell over, the other one would go, "Where's the Rescue Remedy?"
Yeah.
Where's the Rescue Remedy? And go and find it, because you know, that's what we would do. I mean, obviously cuddles and things like that, but also giving them Rescue Remedy. But today, what I wanted specifically to talk to you about is using the remedies for grief. You know, most of us will experience grief at some point in our lives, and it can be the death of an animal, it can be the death of a relationship, it can be the death of somebody you love. And people can feel very lost, very frightened, very in a lot of pain and distress. So which of the 38 remedies would you recommend for grief?
Firstly, I would suggest Rescue Remedy, because usually people have that handy or it's easily available.
Yeah.
Because it's usually a shock or a trauma that's a result of it, depending if it's happens suddenly or unexpectedly. So number one, that can help calm you down. And grief can bring up many emotions in people, and especially shock and trauma. And that particular remedy is called Star of Bethlehem. And that's for any shock or trauma at any part of your life. So it's timeless, and that helps to comfort you.
Yeah. So you can actually take Star of Bethlehem for a shock or trauma or grief that happened 10 years ago. You know, sometimes people will say, I've never been right since X, whatever X was. And
yes,
even taking Star of Bethlehem now would be beneficial.
It wouldn't just be as effective if you've taken it initially, but it definitely does assist with past traumas as well. Yes. Okay,
so Star of Bethlehem possibly mainly for that immediate sense of shock and trauma.
Yes,
when you hear the news, or when you see the person or the animal or whatever it is. Yeah. Yes,
and that is in the Rescue Remedy as well. So it doesn't hurt to take it twice, so to speak.
Yeah. And what other remedies would you recommend for grief?
Quite often after a death or something, people tend to feel guilty because you might think, oh, maybe if I'd done this or that. When our dog, for instance, unfortunately, she was very ill and we had to put her down. And then you might think, well, maybe if I'd caught the illness or realized initially, you know, this might not have happened.
Yeah.
Or for people, you might say, oh, I wish I'd spent more time with them or asked them more questions, that kind of thing.
And so the remedy for that is what?
That is called pine.
Pine. So
pine remedy.
Yeah. Okay. So pine. What else? I mean, because different people experience it differently, don't they? And they experience grief differently at different times.
Yeah, another remedy is called sweet chestnut. And that's if you feel as though you're at the end of your endurance and you've lost hope and you never be happy again with the loss of them. And that just helps to give you a peace of mind, you know, so you don't feel so lost and despaired, although you still miss them, obviously, but it just helps to neutralize that particular feeling. And another one is called red chestnut, and that if you're concerned about how the grief has had impact on other people, like other loved ones who've experienced the loss as well. And that just helps to give you calm and rational concern.
Okay, so if, for example, one of your parents died and you were over concerned and just obsessing about the other parent, how's this other parent going to survive without the first parent? And I mean, it's normal to be concerned, but there's a normal concern, and there's also a sort of an over concern where it becomes more of an obsession, and it actually isn't helpful to the person that's still left alive.
That's correct. I actually experienced that, unfortunately, because like my sort of mother passed away before COVID, and then I couldn't go and see my father as often as I would have liked to, and I did go through all these particular emotions. You know, worried about him and my sister, and that doesn't help the situation particularly.
No, I mean, people can end up having, the person who's feeling the biggest loss can end up having to comfort other people. If they're expressing a lot of distress, rather than them being comforted, they can start taking on the role of comforting the other person. So it can be. And what was the remedy for that? Was that sweet chestnut?
That's called, this one's called red chestnut.
Oh, red chestnut. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And any others?
Another one is if you've feel as though you've resigned to it and apathetic and can't carry on with life as it used to be. One remedy called wild rose can help to assist with a more lively interest in life and give you a bit more joy and happiness.
Right.
You know, if it really does take a toll on you and you can't really bear to carry on anymore, so to speak.
Right, and can you take, I mean, are there any others you would recommend? Or
it really does depend on the particular person. Another one, for instance, might be called white chestnut, and that's one where the thoughts keep going around and around in your mind, and then you can't really focus or concentrate, so it helps to calm the mind and with problem solving. And with the remedies, you could either take them singularly, 2 drops in a drink or directly on the tongue, or you can mix and match up to 7 remedies at one particular time in a mixing bottle and just add spring water. And from that, you take 4 drops 4 times a day.
Right. And if people are concerned about alcohol, some people don't want to take any alcohol. I think can they rub them on their, like the pulse points on the wrist or on the temples?
That's correct. Yes, you can put them, as you mentioned, on the wrists, behind the ear, on the temples. You can put them in a spray bottle and spray them around the room, or you could put them maybe in a water fountain that way, and you can put them in the bath because of the energies, it helps, or you could boil them up and then that would evaporate the alcohol content.
Okay, so even if people don't want to take alcohol, there's still lots of ways of taking them.
That's correct.
And certainly when my children were babies, I would actually often put them on the temples because it was easier than trying to get some into the mouth of a screaming child. It was much easier just to rub them in the temples. Yeah.
And that's actually what Dr. Bach did the first time he came up with the rescue remedy. A sailor had been out at sea for many hours, and when they got him to shore, Dr. Bach actually put a few drops on his lips and it brought him back to life fairly quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes. So, I mean, as you've said, there's 38 different remedies, plus there's a rescue remedy, and I think there's there's books where they explain what each of the remedies is for, but there's also lots of information online, so that though we've looked at some of the remedies for grief, what's appropriate for a particular person at the particular stage and circumstances of and how they're experiencing grief. It could be any of those 38 remedies, couldn't it? Or a combination of any of the 38.
Yes, that's correct. You can either look it up in the book and decide, or online, decide what you think might be suitable and go and buy them, individual ones from the health food store. Or perhaps if you want to discuss it with somebody, like a Bach Foundation Registered Practitioner, you can meet with them for an hour or so, and you can tell them your particular situation and discuss it. And the practitioner can sort of suggest some remedies, and then the client actually decides which ones are best for them at that particular time.
Okay, and so this, it's called a Birchflower
consultation.
Yeah, no, but you said a consultation with
a practitioner and the client.
Yeah, yes, but I mean, anybody. I could call myself a Birch. I could read a book and call myself a Birchflower practitioner. Right. So people need to be certain that they're going to a properly accredited practitioner.
Yes, I mean, people can learn about the remedies. I teach the first couple of courses, and then anybody can do a consultation. But if you want to find a particular Bach Foundation Registered Practitioner that's done the courses which are approved by the Bach Centre, you can go to their website and you can check out where the practitioners are in your local area. Or people can do them online now as well.
Yeah, and so what's the name of the Birchflowers?
It's called the Bach Centre.
Yeah,
and that's based in the Oxfordshire in the United Kingdom.
And the website is? Do you know the website?
Bachcentre.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if people want to consult you, or want to look at find out more information, and you've got information on your website. So what's your website address?
It's bachflowerscanada.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's been really useful. Thank you. I hope it's given people some ideas about how they can use these amazingly gentle, simple remedies that can really help. And I know from my own experience, at various times in my life, I've found them really, really helpful. And I know with my children, I did as well. So thank you very much for giving me your time.
Thank you very much.